The Gypsy Hill murders. Killer convicted, but wrongly. And now investigators say they finally have a new suspect in the string of killings that horrified the San Francisco Bay Area and left 5 young women dead all the way back in 1976. Almost 4 decades since the bodies turned up one by one, most of the victims teenagers. Most of their bodies showed signs of rape. And now, all these years later, police say they've linked a man to at least 2 of the killings. They say DNA evidence puts this man at a couple of those crime scenes. They tell us they've also linked him to another murder in 1976, the killing of a student at the University of Nevada at Reno. That brings to 6 the total number of victims. The victim in Reno is the woman on the upper right here. According to local reports, investigators matched the suspect's DNA to a cigarette butt near the spot where she died. That cigarette butt could lead to a judge to exonerate this woman. Back in the 1970s, when she was a patient at a mental institution, she confessed to the killing of the University of Nevada student. A court later convicted her, but she's since recanted her statement. Her lawyer claims she confessed in hopes of getting a better room at the mental institution. The courts have granted her a retrial, which is scheduled to begin this summer. Diana Eisman is a California criminal defense attorney. She's been researching this case and joins us live this afternoon from Los Angeles. Diana, a cigarette butt does not a conviction make.
Absolutely not. It does help place the defendant at the scene of the crime, which is helpful for prosecutors. But ultimately, they're going to need more than that. They're going to need to show MO. They're going to need to eliminate any alibi evidence that he might have that could help in his defense. Definitely, the sheer presence of a cigarette butt doesn't equal a conviction, but it does speak to the volume that DNA evidence is incredibly powerful, and absolutely at a time back in the 1970s, nobody could have ever thought that dropping a cigarette butt at a crime scene could ultimately connect you to that crime, because nobody could have foreseen that this was the type of evidence that could be used in forensic evidence in the future. This
suspect here, Rodney Halboer, is in jail and has given an interview to a local television station. He says, and I have a quote from that. If we could put that up on the screen, I'd appreciate it. I don't know anything, no knowledge about this. This, finding a cigarette butt in DNA from 30 years ago, doesn't make any sense. And Diana, it could also be very difficult to bring together. Memories are fuzzy 30 days later, much less 30 years.
It's always difficult for both sides, really, when cases age. Witnesses disappear, they die, especially when it's this amount of time has passed. Memories fade, evidence will start to disintegrate, it will lose its forensic value, and so it definitely makes it more challenging for both sides. But it's the prosecutor that has the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt that this defendant committed these murders. And having the cigarette butt in both crime scenes definitely places him at the scene of the crime, which helps, and again, it makes sense that he would be careless enough to flick a cigarette, where nowadays somebody might not do something like that, because he never anticipated that this cigarette butt could be used to tie him to these crimes.
This woman who had been in a mental hospital and confessed, you wonder how much that confession got in the way of the continuing investigation into this case. It appears, if nothing else, that it was still open, because they certainly put this DNA together.
Absolutely, and I think what's really remarkable is that they're considering retrying her. I'm unclear as to why prosecutors see the need to retry this woman when seemingly the only thing that would connect her to this crime was her confession. And so I would think that they have a corpus problem, in the sense that, having her statement be the only connector between this act and whether or not she actually did it. It seems weak, and it seems like a stretch. And I think it's even more damaging to the prosecution in her case that there is forensic evidence tying some other person, another person that is currently spending time in custody for attempted murder. So we know that he is a violent individual. I think that muddies up the prosecution of her case as well.
Diana, thanks.
Thank you.